I'm an avid hiker, or at least I thought I was. My favorite spot was a remote section of the Appalachian Trail in northern Georgia. I'd go for days, just me and the wilderness. It was my church, but after what happened last autumn, I haven't set foot on the trail since. I was on day 2 of a 4-day solo trip. The trail was empty. I hadn't seen another person since I left the trailhead. The woods were beautiful, all reds and golds. It was peaceful. That's when I found the first one. It was a Polaroid photo, lying face down on a flat rock in the middle of the path. I picked it up. It was a picture of the trail ahead of me, the exact spot I was about to walk through. It was a little strange, but I figured another hiker must have dropped it. I tucked it into my pockets and kept going. About a mile later, I found another one. Same thing. A Polaroid, face down on the trail. I picked it up. It was another picture of the trail ahead. But this one was different. In the distance, just at the edge of the frame, there was a person, a tiny figure standing partially behind a tree. We were too far away to make out any details. It was just a shape, a dark shape. Now I was a little unnerved. It was a weird coincidence, but still, I rationalized it. Someone was taking artistic photos of the trail and had lost them. I put the second photo in my pocket with the first and tried to shake off the feeling of unease. I walked for another hour, my pace a little faster now. I kept scanning the woods around me. Every shadow looked like a person. Every gust of wind sounded like footsteps. I was on edge, and then I saw it. The third Polaroid. This one wasn't on the ground. It was pinned to a tree with a small sharp stick right at eye level. My hand was shaking as I pulled it from the tree. I turned it over. It was the same scene. The trail ahead, but the figure was closer now. Much closer. I could see it was a man. He was tall and thin, and he was wearing dark clothes. He was still partially hidden behind a tree, but he was looking right at the camera, right at me. I couldn't see his face. It was lost in the shadows, but I could feel his gaze. That's when the panic set in. This wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't art. Someone was following me, or worse, leading me. They were ahead of me, taking these pictures and leaving them for me to find. They were playing a game, and I was the pawn. I threw the photos on the ground, and I ran. I didn't care about the trail anymore. I just crashed through the underbrush. My only thought? To get away. I ran until my lungs burned, and my legs felt like lead. I finally stumbled into a small clearing and collapsed, gasping for air. After a few minutes, I managed to get my breathing under control. I sat up and looked around. I was lost. I had no idea which way the trail was. I pulled out my compass, trying to get my bearings, and that's when I saw it. The last Polaroid. It was sitting on the log next to me, like it had been placed there just for me. I didn't want to look. I really didn't, but I had to. I reached out with a trembling hand and picked it up. I turned it over. It wasn't a picture of the trail. It was a picture of the back of my own head. I was sitting on the ground, exactly as I was now, looking at my compass. The photo had been taken from just a few feet behind me, from the edge of the clearing. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I just sat there frozen. I could hear the leaves rustling behind me. A twig snapped. He was there. He had been there the whole time, watching me. I slowly turned my head. My heart, a block of ice in my chest. I never saw his face. I just saw the camera and the flash. For 2 summers, I worked as a fire lookout in the Gila National Forest in New Mexico. It was the most isolated job I had ever had. My home was a tiny cabin perched on top of a 100-foot steel tower. For 3 months, My only contact with the outside world was a daily radio check-in with the main ranger station. I loved the solitude, the silence, the endless sea of trees. But my second summer, the silence was broken. It started about a month into my season. It was late at night, and a thunderstorm was rolling in. The radio, which was usually dead quiet except for a 9 a.m. check-in, crackled to life. It wasn't the ranger station. It was a child's voice. A little girl. 100, she said. Her voice, clear and sweet, followed by a burst of static. I grabbed the receiver. This is Lookout 7. Who is this? Is anyone there? Over. Only static answered. I tried again. Nothing. I called the main ranger station, but the storm was interfering with the signal. I couldn't get through. I figured it was just a stray signal from a nearby town, a kid playing with a walkie-talkie. I tried to forget about it. An hour later to the minute, the radio crackled again. The same little girl's voice. 99. I felt a chill go down my spine. This wasn't a coincidence. I tried to answer again, but just like before, there was no response. Just static. I spent the rest of the night sitting by the radio, my stomach in knots. Every hour on the hour, she came back. 98, 97, 96. By morning, I was a wreck. I hadn't slept. At the 9 a.m. check-in, I told my supervisor, a grizzled old ranger named Dave, what had happened. I expected him to laugh it off. He didn't. Just ignore it, kid, he said, his voice grim. It's the storm. Plays tricks on the radio waves. Don't answer it. Don't even listen. Just turn it off. But I couldn't. I had to know. The countdown continued all day, every hour. 85, 84. I tried to find the source. I used my directional antenna, trying to triangulate the signal, but it was impossible. The signal was coming from everywhere at once. For 3 days it went on. The voice never changed, and the timing was always perfect. I was barely eating, barely sleeping. I was obsessed. I started talking to her, pleading with her to tell me who she is, where she was. But she never answered. She just kept counting. On the 4th night, she said 3. I knew what was coming next. I sat in the dark, watching the forest through my binoculars, my hands shaking. The hour passed. The radio crackled. 2, she whispered. I waited for the next hour, my heart pounding in my chest. This was it, the final countdown. The minutes ticked by like hours. The clock on the wall hit 2 a.m. I stared at the radio, waiting for it to come to life. Silence. For the first time in 4 days, the hour passed with no broadcast. I waited another 10 minutes. Nothing. It was over. I felt a wave of relief so powerful it almost made me dizzy. And then I heard it. It wasn't coming from the radio. It was coming from the bottom of the tower. A little girl's voice, singing a nursery rhyme. I scrambled to the window and looked down. In the small patch of ground illuminated by the light from my cabin, a little girl was standing there. She was wearing a simple white dress and she was skipping rope. But she wasn't skipping. She was just standing there, swinging the rope in a slow, lazy arc. She stopped singing and looked up, straight up at me. She smiled, a wide, unnatural smile. And she spoke, her voice carrying up to me on the night air, as clear as if she was standing right next to me. 1, she said. And she raised one hand and pointed, not at me, but at the forest behind me. I turned and looked, and I saw it. A flicker of orange against the dark trees. Then another, and another. All around my tower in a perfect circle. Fires were starting. Small at first, then growing, merging, becoming a wall of flame. I never saw the girl again. I spent the rest of my night on the radio, screaming for help as the fire closed in. A helicopter rescued me at dawn. just before the flames reached the tower. They called it a freak weather event, a series of dry lightning strikes that all hit at the same time. But I know what I saw, and I know what I heard. It wasn't lightning. It was a countdown. I'm a wildlife photographer. I spend weeks at a time in the backcountry, trying to get the perfect shot. Last year, I was in the Adirondacks, trying to get a picture of a mountain lion. I'd been tracking a female for days, and I'd finally found her den. I set up my camp about a half-mile away, and I placed a motion-activated trail cam on a tree overlooking the den. For the first few nights, everything was normal. I'd check the camera in the morning and have a few dozen photos of the mother and her cubs. They were beautiful. But on the third morning, something was different. My food bag, which I'd hung from a tree branch 10 feet off the ground, had been torn open. Half my food was gone. A bear, I thought. It was annoying, but it happens. I rehung the bag higher this time and went to check the trail cam. I scrolled through photos from the night. The mother lion, the cubs, a curious deer, and then, at 3:14, a single, blurry photo. It was just a flash of pale skin and a dark, lanky limb. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't a deer. I had no idea what it was. I told myself it was a trick of the light, a branch blowing in the wind. But I moved my trail cam that afternoon. I pointed it at my campsite. I wanted to see what was stealing my food. That night, I was woken up by a sound. A soft, wet, tearing sound. It was coming from the direction of my food bag. I grabbed my flashlight and my bear spray and unzipped my tent. The sound stopped. I shone my light on the food bag. It was swinging gently, but there was nothing there. I scanned the woods around my campsite. Nothing. I was alone. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. As soon as the sun came up, I took the memory card from the trail cam and put it in my laptop. I held my breath as the photos loaded. The first few hundred were nothing, just my empty campsite. Then at 2:47 a.m., it started. A figure emerged from the trees. It was human, or at least it looked human. It was tall, impossibly thin, and completely naked. Its skin was a pale, almost translucent white. It moved on all fours, its long limbs bending at unnatural angles. It crawled into my campsite with a slow, spider-like grace. It ignored my tent. It went straight for the food bag. It stood up on its hind legs, its back arcing in a way that made me feel sick. It was easily 8 feet tall. It reached up, tore the bag open with its long, spindly fingers and began to eat, cramming handfuls of my food into its mouth. I watched, horrified, as the photos clicked by. The creature spent almost an hour in my camp. It finished the food, then it started to explore. It crawled over to my tent. It put its face up, right next to the fabric, its nose just inches away from where my head had been. It stayed there for a long time, as if it were sniffing me. Then it turned its attention to the trail cam. It seemed to notice it for the first time. It crawled towards the tree, its head cocked to one side. It got closer and closer, until its face filled the entire frame. Its eyes were huge and black with no whites. Its mouth was a wide, lipless slit. It stared into the camera for a full minute. Its expression blank and unreadable. And then it did something that made me throw my laptop to the ground. It opened its mouth, and a long, thin black tongue snaked out, and it licked the lens. The next photo was black. The one after that was black. All the rest were black. I didn't stay to find out why. I packed my gear, left the trail cam on the tree, and I hiked for 10 hours straight until I was back at my car. I drove until I was back in the city, surrounded by lights and people and noise. I never went back. I never will. I don't know what that thing was, but I know it's still out there, And I know that for an hour, it was outside my tent, listening to me breathe. And I know that it knows what I look like, because I looked right back at it, and I saw nothing but hunger, and curiosity, and the dark.